This is Sleeping in Trees, the audiobook. Chapter 13, Mosquito Bombers. In my experience, the most prolific pest in South Florida has always been the mosquito. When we first moved there from Huntington, it was pretty much a given that, when outside, one would be assaulted and dealing full-time with the tiny black fiends. They were tirelessly on the prowl for a small area of uncovered skin where they could alight, puncture, and, with their microscopic, straw-like proboscis inserted painfully, suck up the victim's blood. Mosquitoes are experts at finding bare skin. It doesn't take much of an opening at all. If one exists, they are certain to find it with alarming speed. This was precisely why camping was so unsavory in South Miami. If one was not slathered in oily mosquito repellent, which smelled awful and tasted even worse, completely covered head to toe in clothing, or zipped up tightly in a heavy sleeping bag, the pest would beam in on the smallest area of soft skin and stab away with their tiny pointed prods, absolutely tireless in their pursuit. Local community organizations reminded us through a variety of mediums over the years that the real mosquito problem was not the mosquito at all, but the habitat of their larvae, standing water. In my experience, standing water covers most of South Florida. Realizing the epic undertaking required to dry up all the standing water in a place that resides 2 feet, on average, above sea level, the local officials devised and instituted a creative Plan B. Their innovative solution? Simply retrofit a handful of World War II bombers with huge tanks of liquid pesticides. Using aerial maps, they would trace out a grid, zigzag across the South Miami suburbs and blanket the entire area from 200 feet above the ground with a toxic brew. Low altitude meant less blow-off and maximum coverage to find even the most stubbornly hidden mosquitoes and their larvae, residing comfortably in front yards, backyards, old tires, old boots, bird baths, and thousands of square acres of standing water. The ingenious plan was quickly approved. About once a month, early on Saturdays, we would hear a low, guttural rumble in the distance. It was a deeply unique sound, like no other we had ever heard before, and we knew immediately that the mosquito bombers were making their run. Out we would race on our stingrays in anticipation and head straight toward their bombing path. To our delight, if they passed in the distance and had not already come directly overhead, we knew that we were in a spray zone, yet to be sprayed. All we had to do was wait a short while and we would be assaulted for sure. We were positively gleeful in anticipation. The best possible scenario was set up when they would pass low at 150 miles an hour, twin engines rumbling, parallel and straight down an adjacent neighborhood street. We knew then, with certainty, that they would be returning within a few minutes to roar straight overhead, spewing their clouds of chemical poisons. As expected, right on cue, there they would be, coming in a beeline straight at us. We'd spot them above the treetops. Where were the gunners? Would they open fire and strafe us? Of course not. With all likelihood, they were pensioned Air Force officers, attacking a far more numerous but far less dangerous enemy. These were warriors attempting to eradicate only mosquitoes. As they zoomed just overhead, we would follow their flight line as if our own heads swiveled themselves on small gun turrets. Within a few moments, they would disappear over the scrub pines, and the smell of the kerosene-based pesticide would fill our nostrils, and the sting of the poison would inflame our eyes. We were elated. Over the many years I lived in South Miami, the mosquito became less and less of an irritating pest, to the point that one day I realized they seemed to have vanished completely. Had the Saturday morning bombing runs been that effective? Or did South Florida builders just develop most of the places that may have held standing water, making it a land, today, where there is just not enough of the wet stuff left to provide the ideal pediatrics ward for billions upon billions of baby mosquitoes. The unintended consequences of blatant and botched bribery. It's coming up next in Chapter 14. It's called The Young Boy and the Sea.